My name is Katie Hansen. I am one of the Career and College Center coordinators here at South High School. I'm presenting tonight with my colleague Kelsey Massey, and she's going to be taking over in the second half of the presentation. But we just wanted to welcome you all to our post-secondary planning night for 9th through 11th grade students. We hope that this is helpful for you for whatever part you're at in the post-secondary planning process. We're going to be taking questions at the end. So at the top, feel free to go ahead and ask questions in the chat, or sorry, not in the chat, in the Q&A function. So if you go up to the top, there should be, a triangle, a square, and a circle. And when you're in there, you should be able to go ahead and ask a question, and we will get to them at the end and hopefully be able to answer everyone's question. Like I said, welcome to Post-Secondary Planning Night. We're excited to have you. I'm going to go over a quick overview of our agenda tonight. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is just what is post-secondary. So when we in the counseling office at South High School talk about post-secondary, what do we mean and what are those pathways? We'll go over a timeline through 9th through 11th grade, talk a little bit about how to do research and exploration, and we obviously will touch on some COVID considerations as well before we go ahead and start with the questions. So for the overview of post-secondary pathways, something that we talk with students a lot is just defining what post-secondary is. So post-secondary means anything after high school. So a lot of times people think when we say post-secondary, we mean only college. And that's not the case. College is included in those plans, but we're also talking about a whole range of different plans that you can do once you leave high school. So we have a chart here that gives kind of an overview of what some path students take are. So everyone here is starting in high school and is somehow going to end up in a career. And there are lots of different ways to get there. So we have technical schools, vocational schools, two-year colleges, four-year college. Some of those may lead to graduate school or a professional degree, maybe even a doctoral program. But there's ways to, oops, sorry, my cat is all over the place today. There are ways to go and start from a high school and go straight to a career, no matter what path you take. So we usually talk about post-secondary plans in terms of what model they are. So we talk about the earn model, the earn and learn model, and then the learn then earn model. So when we're talking about earning, we mean full-time employment directly after high school. So that doesn't usually give you a credential, but some students will start directly into, go directly into the workforce after high school. And then the other one for earn and learn, these are both options that you can be earning money while you are training and getting ready to enter the workforce. So that can include the military, so an immediate work and multi-year commitment, either that's before or after pursuing a college degree, or that could be an apprenticeship. And an apprenticeship is a model where you work and learn on the job site, and it can be up to a 6-year program. We also have a certificate program. So those are shorter term programs from 3 weeks to 1 year, and they're training in a specific field. So sometimes these are offered at community and technical colleges. Sometimes they're offered at community organizations like Summit Academy within the Twin Cities. We also have 2-year college, which is a learn then earn model, same with the certificate program, where you can either go and get a degree in a specific field, or you can get a degree in a field and then transfer to a bachelor's program. And then lastly, we have a 4-year college degree, which is what most people think of when we say post-secondary, but those are bachelor granting institutions. And a lot of times students go, okay, well, there's a lot of different options, but how do I know if I should be looking at a certificate program or if I should be looking at a 4-year program or work? So everyone is different, but we do have a few different trends that we see in students and why they choose certain pathways. So if we're talking about a career-focused pathway, that can be employment, military, apprenticeship, or certificate. either those earn models or those earn and learn models where that happens at the same time. For employment, you might just be ready to make some money and want to be out of classes for a while. So that's mostly what we hear from students, is that they, are done with traditional schooling and are interested in just entering the workforce directly. We also have students who are interested in the military, and that's a good fit for students who are interested in learning very specific career skills and service to the U.S. So for students who do well in that pathway, you have to really thrive in structure and be able to commit to a 4 to 8 year contract. So those are some of the things that we would go over as well if you were considering a military pathway. And for an apprenticeship, these are really great options for students who learn by doing. So if you are a student who really wants your studies to be a hand-on experience, so you don't necessarily want to learn in the classroom, you would rather learn while actually on a job site and building and doing something, or by shadowing a professional, then an apprenticeship could be a really good fit for you. And then for a certificate program, these are really good if a quick degree is appealing. So you know that you want to enter the workforce soon, and you want to gain skills that are going to make you employable. So instead of potentially, instead of going into the workforce with a high school diploma as your sole credential, a certificate program is a really nice way in order to add another credential, add some more skills to your tool belt before going out into the working world. So then for our college-focused pathways, a 2-year college is a really good option if you need to obtain a degree beyond high school to work within your career field. So say you really want to be a nurse, you can't enter into that profession without some type of further credentialing. And so that 2-year college might be a good fit. A 2-year college can also be a good fit if you want to transfer to a 4-year college after. Some students tend to do what's called like their generals at a 2-year college, where they either do a specific program that's set up by the school or get their associate's degree and then transfer over to the 4-year college. And then lastly, our 4-year college, this is a really good pathway for students who want that time and opportunity to explore majors. So at a 2-year college, you jump right in with going in on your coursework for that degree. At a 4-year college, you usually have a little bit more time before you have to declare a major. So a lot of times when students are not sure what they want to do in terms of a major or career, they default to a 2-year college. But sometimes the 2-year college doesn't have as much time in order for them to do that exploration. So that could be a good reason to go to a 4-year college, and if you anticipate needing that bachelor's degree for your career goal. And then lastly, we put gap year on here too, because gap year is a really popular plan right now, especially during the pandemic. People aren't sure what's going to be happening next year in a few months, and people tend to pump the brakes. But we don't think of a gap year as a year off. We think of it as a year on. So this is a really good time to work on a cause you feel passionate about, if you're interested in experiences outside of the classroom, or if you need to save money for college. So if there are things that you have that you want to work on that would just be better served by not being in school for a year, that's what we would define as a gap year, but also with a plan to re-enter back into school or whatever you want that long-term plan to be. And here too, we briefly will go over some costs. I'll throw it up there for you all to look at. We know that cost is a big concern, and in the fall, we always have our College Knowledge and Financial Aid Night. So you should be able to hopefully be able to attend that and learn a little bit more about paying for these programs. But it is good to note that while they range in expenses, so from least expensive to more expensive, that sometimes that correlates with salary as well. So on average, the more training you have, the more that you will make in terms of a salary. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to that, but this is a general rule that we follow. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit on the general timeline. So if we have any ninth grade families here, this is a really good time for you all to get started, and you are very, very prepared. But we will basically, for ninth grade, we want you all to settle in. And especially this year, we know that this is a really strange year where you have come to South High School and you've actually never been inside the school maybe or met any of your teachers in person. So we really want to stress, virtual learning or not, for ninth grade that you settle in, get familiar with your classes, the workload, and the resources. We want you to create good habits, find that system that will work for you. Remember, set up that foundation for what you're going to do here in high school. And then we also want you to identify sparks. So we want you to try out some clubs, sports, other activities, make new friends, and explore interests. We want you to figure out where you fit in at high school and what interests you. And then in the spring, you'll be picking classes with your counselor. Some of you have already done that. And then in the summer, it's a really good time to recharge and reflect on your first year of high school with your family and friends and do some things that bring you joy. We don't want you to make everything all about college or career. We want to make sure that you are exploring those interests and really learning more about yourself in that ninth grade year. So once we get into 10th grade, in the fall, we want to make sure that you get involved. So continue to explore your interests through clubs. Maybe you have a job outside of work or outside of school that you really like, hobbies, community activities, whatever really interests you, make sure you start getting involved in that and exploring it. And then also attend a college or career fair. So we usually have a career fair hosted at South, but obviously it was different this year and it was hosted virtually. Our Minnesota Association of Counselors of Color did one, I think, in October. Kelsey, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But being able to attend a fair in the fall of 10th grade is a really good way just to start learning a little bit more about what you like. So that kind of leads us to spring, where we say get your feet wet. So start checking out colleges or different organizations or programs in the area and seeing what you like. So not necessarily going into it with an eye of being really, really specific and critical, needing all of these different questions answered, but more just to get the feel of what's out there. And then in the spring, we also want 10th graders to make a summer plan. So you can grow your interests and resume by working, completing an internship, signing up for an enrichment program, or volunteering, but making sure, again, that you're doing something over the summer where you can continue to explore. And then 10th grade or 11th grade, is where we really start to kick off. So the fall, we really want to make sure that students are focused on their academics. So most of the time, if students are applying to colleges or programs their senior year, the 11th grade grades are the last grades that will be on their transcript. So if you're applying before you have any 12th grade grades, these are the last ones that are going to be in their mind. So we want to make sure that you are focusing on it and putting your best foot forward. Colleges also know that sometimes 9th grade is a rocky year, and they want to see an upward growth in academics and grades. So if 9th grade wasn't your jam, that's okay too. Make sure that you're working on continuously improving. We also want to make sure that you stay involved with those things that you got involved with in either 9th grade or 10th grade, and maybe even start to lead. So try out some different leadership roles in your club, sports, or workplace, and gain a new set of skills. Then in the winter, we want you to start your research and list. So in the winter, we will be meeting with 11th grade students about the college and career search. So if you are an 11th grade student or a parent of an 11th grade student, we had gone into their classes virtually and conducted a career and college search in Naviance. So this is a really good time to start creating a list of colleges and careers that you like. And then you want to make sure you're connecting with your resources. So you are welcome to schedule an appointment with me or Kelsey or with your counselor, just to make sure that you are on track and kind of go over what you're thinking about for next year. And then spring will come sooner than you think, and that's a really good time to visit and network. So 11th grade and in the spring, a lot of times colleges offer programs that are specifically for juniors. This year, a lot of them have shifted to a virtual format, but there are some who will be offering, walking tours of their campus or things like that. But it's a really good time to talk with admissions representatives about what they have to offer and really learn more about the programs that you're interested in. And by the end of 11th grade, hopefully you've narrowed down that list and you've started creating a list of 3 to 8 places you would like to apply to. Again, whether that's colleges, gap year programs, or employment opportunities, having a list is really important because we want to make sure that you have options senior year. You'll also want to create a testing plan in the spring. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in COVID, because I know there are limited opportunities to test and just a larger trend of schools going test optional. But if you do need any to take any tests, this is the time to figure that out and register for them. It's also a good time to start application materials. So starting a personal statement for college, resume for any jobs, and ask junior year teachers for letters of recommendation. And then at the end of the spring semester, we'll be hosting what's called a junior launch for our students. And that's the time for them to meet with the counseling team and go over some of those more technical aspects of applying. So, how do you send your transcripts? How do you upload letters of recommendation? Where can you find jobs? So we'll kind of hit you with the nuts and bolts at the end and then hit you again with them at the beginning of senior year as well. Okay. And then in the summer, we want to make sure that you just are getting organized. So keep track of the colleges and programs you're interested in, what materials you might need, any deadlines that are coming up quickly. We have resources like an application tracker on our website where you can go and get a little bit more information on how to get organized with this search. And it's also a good time in the summer to have a conversation about finances and how you're going to pay for education and programs. So you'll want to gather materials to complete your financial aid, which opens usually in October of the senior year. So you won't be applying for financial aid as a junior. You'll be waiting until senior year, but it's nice to make sure that you have your taxes and everything in order over the summer so you can just go ahead and start applying as soon as it opens in the fall. And then we want you to just keep visiting and networking. So it's a really great time in the summer to learn about different post-secondary options. There are a lot of programs out there. Colleges and training programs and apprenticeships all offer things in the summer specifically for students, knowing that they're going to start applying in another month or two. And again, applications won't open until late summer, early fall. So it's a good time to start finalizing your list in the summer, knowing that that will also probably happen a bit once you get into your 12th grade year. Okay, I'm going to kick it over to Kelsey for talking a little bit more about research and exploration.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So yeah, we're going to dive in a little bit on how you can kind of start to think about researching for your post-secondary options. And kind of the biggest one that Katie and I like to focus on with students is determining fit and preference. So kind of keeping in mind that college informs career, career informs college. It's one giant feedback loop, but we definitely want to make sure that you're keeping in mind, taking the time to maybe think about what your long-term goals are in terms of career and maybe what you are interested in pursuing as a career opportunity once you get older, but then also to determining the place that can give you the credentials to obtain that career opportunity, which is where you kind of start thinking a little bit more about the colleges or the institutions that you would like to attend. So kind of diving in a little bit deeper here, a lot of times we ask, what do you want to learn and how do you want to learn in a setting, whether that's through an organization or a job that you're working at, an apprenticeship program or a college. You want to start kind of thinking about how you best learn as a student. So are you, more comfortable in smaller class sizes that are more discussion based? Or are you more comfortable in larger class sizes that are lecture based, where you have more of a professor speaking to you? Are you looking for a more competitive environment where you have the opportunity to take a lot of honors classes? Are you looking for a more collaborative environment where you're doing a lot of teamwork or peer support? Research opportunities or study abroad opportunities. These are all different ways in which students will kind of consider learning opportunities and continue to learn throughout their post-secondary experience. Also taking into account, what do you want your daily life to look like? You might be considering commuting to school to save money to not live on campus, or you might be looking at going far away and living in the dorms. You're going to want to consider, activities that are happening on campus. Do you want to be involved in athletics or Greek life? What is the school setting in a busy, bustling city, or are you in a more smaller rural area where like maybe life might feel a little slower paced? So all of these are things that you're going to want to consider in your day-to-day life, and then making sure that it ultimately fits with, again, your learning style and how comfortable you feel on campus. And then, of course, too, right, the big one, always thinking about the spending and how much it may cost to eventually attend that institution or pursue that career path. So thinking of true cost versus sticker price. Again, we always want to make sure that we remind students to complete things like financial aid and scholarships to, again, get closer to that true cost as opposed to what you might see as the average tuition at that institution, or annual tuition, I should say. Looking at, merit-based aid and scholarships versus need-based aid and scholarships. Merit-based being a lot more focused on, grades and test scores, whereas need-based aid and grant might be looking more at that financial piece for the family. Room and board versus transportation to and from campus, as well as employment opportunities that you might be looking at, and then those starting salaries and benefits. So if you are looking at that career route, making sure that you're looking at opportunities and then discussing with those employers, what is my starting salary and what kinds of benefits can I consider or be considered for as I apply to this opportunity. Keeping in mind that student and parent preferences may differ. This is definitely something that you'll probably all face as you start embarking on your post-secondary journey. I'm pretty sure we all remember times when we had really tough conversations with our parents and tried to push it a little bit. But just know that that happens, and those are good conversations to have as you guys continue to embark on this. So kind of thinking along the lines of like a student preference for lecture classes might be like, oh, if I'm at a big school, I won't get called on. But the parent might look at it as it might mean cheaper tuition at a larger public institution. Distance from home, a student might be looking at that freedom aspect and being able to kind of explore and become an adult. Whereas that's also a flight away from home. So how are they getting to and from campus or to and from home if things happen? So just keeping in mind that this does happen, and just making sure that you're having those conversations as you continue embarking on that post-secondary planning process. So now you kind of determine fit and preference, right? You got to start the research. This is the fun part, where we have the opportunity to kind of dig in, look at different opportunities, start having conversations with friends on what they're interested in, and what their plans are for after high school. And these are some unique tools that you can kind of use to start that search. The biggest one that Katie and I and the counseling team at South tell students to use is Naviance. That is the career and college planning tool for the district. And so we really encourage students to make sure that they're taking advantage of that platform to start their college research. They have a tool in there called Supermatch, which is a great opportunity for students to kind of start to juggle those fits and preferences that we talked about, kind of pick, what their major might be, where their location might be, and then see what schools come up in that Supermatch search. And then they can start to identify if that is a place that they may want to attend in the future. There's also, obviously, we encourage students, once they've started to narrow that list via Supermatch, that's the time when you start jumping to the college's websites. taking the time to look at the virtual programming that they're offering, right? Because COVID has kind of moved a lot of things online. And of course, we're all hoping that we'll continue to kind of move back into a more in-person space. But taking the chance to look at that virtual programming, going to the webinars that they're offering, connecting with admissions representatives at those schools, and having conversations about the opportunities that might be on campus for them. And then, of course, too, looking at social media accounts. That's a huge thing amongst our generation nowadays, right? It's really ingrained in our society. And what's really nice is you can kind of get a real-time feel for what might be happening on campus. I know that I follow my alma mater. It's really nice to be able to kind of see what's going on, what they're building, what's changing. And students can get a real good feel for kind of what the campus is at that moment via social media. So we encourage students to follow their social media accounts. Of course, there's also Big Future at College Board, which is another research tool. This one's kind of nice if, let's say, you wanted to sit down with parents and do some research. There's no login needed, whereas Naviance, you do need a login. But it's just another version of Supermatch where you have the opportunity to kind of plug and play the different preferences that you have to be able to go in and kind of see what schools pop up based on your interests. Another one that we really want to encourage students to check out is Project Success. Project Success has done an excellent job this year revamping a lot of their in-person programming and moving it into an online space, which has been really awesome for a lot of our juniors and seniors as they kind of start really diving into some of this planning. They have video panels where they have Q&A sessions with admissions representatives, with current students at different universities and colleges in the state of Minnesota and some outside of the state. They have a really cool spring break thing coming up for students to kind of dive in. For those who may be a little further along in the college process, they'll talk about how do you find things on campus that you're interested in, clubs and activities, and then those they'll have also sessions for students who are just starting that college search process, and they'll walk through that with them to see how do you start that process and what questions you have. So just keep that in mind that is also another really great resource for students to check out. Let's say that you are looking at that, career path outside of high school. You are looking for maybe more of a break. You've been in school for about 13 years and you're ready to make a paycheck. Some online career research tools that Katie and I really, really like to encourage students to utilize is one, Virtual Job Shadow. They do have career assessments and interest profiles that you can take. But the thing that I like highlighting the most is the video content. What's really nice about Virtual Job Shadow is they actually take nurses, doctors, video game designers, as you see on the screenshot, we have bus operators, authors, and they meet with these individuals and do these little 1 to 3 minute clips asking them questions about their profession. And this is just a really great way to kind of just hear from people who are actually doing that job so that you can determine if maybe that's something you would like to pursue in the future. The other thing they do have on there is some resume tools that you can utilize to kind of build out your resume so that you can start thinking oh, great, I want to highlight this about myself and these skills. And then ultimately you'll have a resume that you can share with jobs that you're interested in applying to. The other one that we do like to highlight as well is Minnesota CareerWise. This is the state of Minnesota's career research tool. It is nice because it highlights everything from a Minnesota lens. So you'll see job market trends in the state of Minnesota. You'll be able to see, jobs that are on the rise, jobs that might be on the decline right now. So things like that. You also have other career interest inventories that you can take and things like that. But again, it's the Minnesota lens that we really like about this one. So we encourage students to check that out. So kind of just thinking about those resources that are readily available to students at South. Obviously, the big one that we want to highlight is the people that are available to all of you and students. The Career and College Center, Katie and I are here as a great resource around all post-secondary planning. And so please don't hesitate to check out our website, make an appointment with us. We have virtual appointment slots that we are happy to connect with families and students about post-secondary planning. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out to your counselors as well. They are a great resource to you. They want to hear what your plans and goals are, and they want to be able to provide resources to you to be able to best prepare for those plans. Another thing to keep in mind is the CCC's website has an online resource library, or online resources, sorry. The website is a great place where you can, again, connect with Katie and I, find appointment slots, find our CCC calendar, find the resource library. We also list job and program opportunities for students on that website as well. So we really definitely encourage you to bookmark that if you haven't. And then, of course, too, like I said, that CCC calendar is going to highlight those events that Katie and I really like to stress that students attend as they're kind of embarking on that post-secondary journey. So the Manac College Fair, college rep visits, which are happening on Wednesdays right now virtually. So if students, see a college that they're interested in, or maybe just want to meet with an admissions rep, we encourage them to jump in on those rep visits and just have conversations about college and what's to come for them. And then, of course, College Knowledge and Financial Aid Night is the big fall event that we have generally for our seniors to help kind of kickstart their college process. That's going to be the night where a majority of families might come and start their financial aid. Okay, and this is just a brief snapshot of our calendar. So again, we really encourage students, if they haven't already, to go ahead and add that calendar to their Google School Calendar. Again, this is just a great resource to kind of see the events and things that are happening in the CCC for students to participate in. So as you research, right? You're going to want to kind of keep in mind that this is going to be a continuous loop as you move throughout this process. You're going to explore different options. You're going to reflect on those options. You're going to update your priorities. A lot of things do continue to change as you move throughout high school. So just know that you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping track of the things that you are interested in, the colleges and programs that you want to apply to, and then you're going to want to keep updating that list as you move throughout the process. So as I've mentioned already, right, keeping that list. You'll want to keep that initial list of interests and filter as you go. The big thing I do want to highlight is making sure that you're not ruling out anything based on cost at this point. There are a lot of different things that will kind of continue to happen as you move throughout your senior year. The biggest one obviously being that financial aid piece. And so we don't want to rule out any opportunities yet until we have a full financial picture, which usually starts to come up in the spring. And then, of course, utilizing Naviance for college planning. We really want to make sure that students are updating that colleges I'm thinking about list. So when they go in and see a college they like, they'll click the heart, which means it favorites the college. And then from there, that's information that Katie and I and the counseling team can see. So when they come and make appointments with us, we can go like, oh, hey, I see that you're interested in the University of Minnesota Duluth or U of M Twin Cities. And then from there, we can also share, those important details about those institutions or any events that might be coming up where they can learn a little bit more about those colleges or institutions that they'd like to attend. So we all know we're living in a pandemic, right? So of course, there are some considerations that you'll want to keep in mind as you're planning for next year. These are definitely tips for success that you'll want to consider, even if we're not in a pandemic. But of course, right now we are. Focusing on obviously exploring multiple options. We're really stressing to students this year having backup plans on backup plans. If you are looking at, you have your primary college in mind and you're like, oh man, this is the one I want to go to, we still encourage you to have one or two backups, whether that's school, apprenticeship programs, jobs that you're interested in. Just so that you have a plan B and a plan C. Of course, focusing too on those fits and preferences that I was talking about. You're really going to want to make sure that you're highlighting the things that draw you to that college or that job opportunity. And then doing some things now. It's really important, again, to kind of just start that research, even if it is just taking a half hour to an hour, maybe every couple of weeks, to do a little bit of research about colleges or jobs or careers that you're interested in, so that you can kind of start building out that list that you'll, again, eventually funnel down as you move throughout your senior year. Some things to avoid. Oh, sorry, Katie, one more. Some things to avoid really quick. The myth of the perfect plan. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. So just keeping in mind that, your plans are going to shift and change as you shift and change throughout the world. Categorizing pathways or institutions as good or bad. There's no such thing. Every institution, every job opportunity is going to be meant for a different person, and everybody's plans and goals are going to be different as they continue to move throughout life. So just know that a lot of times too, it's what you make of the opportunity as well. So definitely taking into consideration that there's no such thing as good or bad. It's what you make of it. And feeling the need to do everything right now. Nope, don't need to do that. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So definitely keep in mind that you'll want to pace yourself. So just, again, slowly chipping away at those things, whether that's building the list, starting an essay, asking for letters of recommendation, you have time. So trends that we have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, kind of one of the biggest ones that has been really on the forefront of conversation is we've seen a lot of schools move into test optional spaces, some permanently and some just extending into fall of 2022 admission cycles. Of course, definitely make sure that you're doing your research as you are applying to schools. If being a test optional school is something that you are looking for, utilizing fairtest.org to find those test optional schools that are that exist in the nation. Kind of some big ones that are here in the Twin Cities are actually a majority of the schools. So we have Augsburg, McAllister, Hamlin, you name it, University of St. Thomas are kind of some of our bigger ones that have moved into permanent test optional spaces. And so that means that they are not considering the ACT or SAT for admittance anymore. We've seen a lot of spaces move into virtual tours and visits. So taking advantage of those while you can. The kind of nice thing is right, you can do it from your living room. The con is that you don't get to be on campus, right? So we obviously want to kind of see that trend go away and you have the opportunity to experience life on campus, but taking advantage of those virtual materials that colleges have created due to the pandemic. And of course, too, grace and compassion has been kind of a big thing for a lot of admissions teams, as well as job opportunities. We know that we're living in a pandemic. We know that this is unprecedented in time. And so a lot of colleges are definitely keeping that in mind while they're reviewing applications. So the big thing is obviously we want you to get connected with us. Take the time to meet with us, ask questions, make appointments. We really want to get to know the students and their passions and their career goals, and ultimately be able to provide them with resources to help make that a possibility. So again, adding that CCC calendar to your own calendar. Join the Googling or the Counseling Google Classroom. This is where we'll hold all of our My Life Plan lessons for this year. All students at South should have been invited to their grade appropriate Google Counseling Classroom. If they haven't been, or if they can't find that invite anymore, please have them reach out to us and we'll make sure that we get them the Google Classroom code. Check out our weekly newsletter. We really want to make sure that we're keeping you up to date with any opportunities that are being presented to students, any events that are happening. We also keep an updated list of scholarship deadlines that are coming up in there as well. And then getting a Naviance parent account, making sure that you're registered in that space. Again, if you have questions or need help getting registered, reach out to Katie and I, and we're happy to make that happen. And last but not least, we use Remind. So if you are hoping to get those text updates around deadlines for scholarships, program and job opportunities, and anything else that is happening in post-secondary planning, go ahead and you'll just text the 81010 to the appropriate grade level code for the information that corresponds to that grade. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up our presentation today. We definitely if you have any time, feel free to take a picture of this. Katie and I will also put these slides on our website, so you'll be able to see the recording as well as the slides for you to reference back on. But don't hesitate to reach out. I know that I do see we have some questions in the chat here as well as in the Q&A. But this is a great time. Feel free to use that Q&A session or section at the top right-hand corner in the chat to ask any questions that you have for Katie and I.